morning sun cast golden light across Luna Station as 20 million humans prepared for the biggest celebration in their history. Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of Earth's orbital command center and watched the festivities begin on the moon below. Children ran through the gleaming corridors of humanity's first permanent lunar colony while their parents hung colorful banners and prepared feast tables that stretched for miles through the station's main halls. Lisa Carter smiled as she walked through the central plaza where thousands of families had gathered to mark the colony's first anniversary. The station hummed with life and laughter as people from every nation on Earth shared stories and dreams about their new home among the stars. Musicians played songs that drifted through the artificial atmosphere, while vendors sold treats that children had never tasted on Earth. Back on Earth, billions of people watched the celebration through live broadcasts that showed every corner of the magnificent station. Families gathered around their screens to see relatives who had made the journey to Luna. Students in classrooms pointed at the images and talked about becoming lunar engineers or moon farmers when they grew up. The whole world felt proud as they watched humanity take its next great step into space. Amy Rodriguez sat in her laboratory on Earth and watched her brother dance with his wife in Luna Station's main ballroom. She had helped design the station's power systems and felt deep satisfaction seeing her work support so many happy lives. The station ran perfectly on the clean fusion reactor she had spent years perfecting. Every system worked exactly as planned, and the colonists lived comfortable lives with all the resources they needed. Ben Murphy reviewed security reports from his post at Earth Defense Command. All sensors showed normal space traffic around Luna, with only scheduled supply ships moving between Earth and the station. The military had declared the day a peaceful holiday, with reduced patrols so that even the soldiers could enjoy watching the celebration. Nothing in the vast emptiness of space suggested that anything could threaten the joyful crowds gathering on humanity's newest world. Kate Williams worked in the station's engineering section and made final checks on all the systems that kept 20 million people alive in the harsh environment of space. Air recyclers hummed quietly while gravity generators maintained Earth-normal conditions throughout the massive structure. Water flowed clean and pure from the processing plants while food grew in vast hydroponic gardens that fed the entire population. The first sign of trouble came at exactly noon lunar time when space around the station began to shimmer like heat waves on a summer day. Jake Harrison frowned at his displays as strange readings appeared on sensors that had never shown anything unusual before. The shimmer grew stronger and space itself seemed to bend and twist in ways that violated every law of physics that human science understood. Massive shapes began to emerge from the distorted space as if reality was tearing open to reveal something hidden behind the normal universe. The shapes grew larger and more solid until they became enormous vessels unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. These ships stretched for miles and their surfaces crawled with patterns that hurt to look at directly. They surrounded Luna Station like predators circling helpless prey. Every screen on Earth and Luna suddenly displayed the same image as an alien presence took control of all human communication networks. The being that appeared looked somewhat like a human, but taller and thinner, with skin that seemed to shift between different shades of gray and black. Its eyes glowed with cold light, and when it spoke, its voice carried the weight of ancient authority and absolute certainty. The creature called itself Warlord Kethvar and spoke in perfect human languages to every person watching. It announced that the Zephyrians had traveled across the galaxy for thousands of years, cleansing the universe of what they called failed experiments in evolution. Humanity had been observed and judged and found wanting in every measure that mattered to the ancient race that had appointed itself guardian of galactic purity. The families on Luna Station stopped their celebration and stared at the screens in growing horror as Kethvar explained that humans were too violent and chaotic to be allowed to spread among the stars. The Zephyrians had decided that Earth's children must be eliminated before they could pollute other worlds with their primitive emotions and unpredictable behaviors that threatened the ordered civilization the aliens had spent millions of years creating. Jake Harrison shouted orders to his crew as they tried desperately to contact Luna Station but found that all communication systems had been taken over by the alien fleet. The orbital command center's weapons powered up automatically, but the targeting systems refused to lock onto the enemy vessels that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. Every defensive system that humanity had built proved useless against technology that operated by rules no human scientist had discovered. On Luna Station, Lisa Carter led evacuation efforts as alarms began sounding throughout the colony. But there was nowhere to run and no ships large enough to carry 20 million people to safety. The alien vessels had surrounded them completely and blocked every escape route while their weapons began charging with energy that made the space around them glow with unnatural colors. Warlord Kethvar announced that Luna Station would serve as a demonstration of Zephyrian power and a warning to Earth about the fate that awaited all humanity. The alien ships would destroy the colony slowly and deliberately while broadcasting every moment to the home world so that humans could understand the futility of resistance against beings who had mastered forces beyond mortal comprehension. The attack began with beams of twisted light that struck Luna Station's outer sections and began unmaking the very atoms that formed the structure. The station's shields flared and died within seconds as the alien weapons tore through defenses like paper. Sections of the colony simply ceased to exist as the energy touched them, and the people inside vanished without even time to scream. Amy Rodriguez watched in helpless rage as her brother's image disappeared from the broadcast, along with thousands of other families who had been dancing in the ballroom just moments before. The aliens methodically destroyed each section of the station while cameras continued recording the massacre and transmitting it to Earth, where billions of people witnessed the systematic murder of their friends and relatives. The destruction took exactly 1 hour as the Zephyrians demonstrated their complete control over life and death among the stars. When Luna Station finally collapsed into glowing debris that would never support life again, Warlord Kethvar delivered his final message to the stunned survivors on Earth. Humanity had exactly 1 year to prepare for total extinction because the Zephyrian fleet would return to finish what they had started. As the alien vessels vanished back into the twisted space from which they had emerged, Earth fell silent except for the sounds of 20 billion people weeping for the 20 million who had died while the universe watched and did nothing to help. The 3 days after Luna Station's destruction passed in stunned silence as Earth's government struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. President Helen Foster sat in emergency session with world leaders who could barely speak through their shock and grief. The images of 20 million people vanishing in alien light played endlessly on every news channel, while families searched desperately for any sign that their loved ones might have somehow survived. On the 4th day, something remarkable began to happen across the planet as ordinary people started making extraordinary decisions. Factory workers in Detroit abandoned their assembly lines to volunteer for military service. Scientists in Tokyo worked 18-hour days analyzing every fragment of data from the alien encounter. Farmers in Brazil organized food distribution networks to support the millions of researchers and soldiers who would need supplies for the coming war. Jake Harrison found himself promoted to Supreme Admiral of the newly formed Terran Defense Coalition, as every military force on Earth united under a single command structure. Countries that had been enemies for centuries suddenly shared their most classified technologies and weapon systems. The old divisions between nations seemed foolish when faced with an enemy that wanted to exterminate the entire human race. Amy Rodriguez threw herself into studying the energy signatures that the alien weapons had left behind in the wreckage around Luna's orbit. Working with Carl Jung from the Beijing Institute of Physics and Nina Brooks from the London Materials Laboratory, she discovered that the Zephyrian weapons operated on principles that human science had never imagined possible. The aliens somehow used space and time itself as tools for destruction. The team's breakthrough came when they realized that the alien energy beams didn't simply destroy matter, but actually convinced atoms to stop existing by altering the fundamental forces that held them together. This revelation terrified the scientists, because it meant the Zephyrians possessed technology that could rewrite the basic laws of physics within a localized area. Ben Murphy led crash programs to develop new military strategies that might work against enemies who could bend reality to their will. Traditional tactics like tanks and missiles seemed useless against beings who existed partially outside normal space. However, his analysis teams noticed something strange in the alien broadcast footage that gave them the first hint of hope since the massacre began. The Zephyrian ships had maintained a careful distance from Luna Station during their attack instead of moving close enough to use their reality-warping weapons at maximum efficiency. Murphy's experts calculated that the aliens could have destroyed the colony much faster if they had approached within a few thousand kilometers. Something had prevented them from getting too close to the human population. Kate Williams coordinated the massive industrial transformation that converted Earth's manufacturing capacity from civilian production to military applications. Every car factory became a weapons plant, while every electronics company started building sensor arrays and communication systems for the defense effort. The speed of the conversion amazed even the engineers who planned it, as humanity's natural adaptability exceeded all expectations. Project Prometheus began as an attempt to reverse engineer any alien technology that could be recovered from the Luna debris field. Williams led teams of the world's best engineers in analyzing every piece of wreckage that could be collected. Most of the alien materials proved impossible to understand because they operated according to physical laws that humans had never discovered. The breakthrough came when Alan Cross joined the research effort with his expertise in genetic engineering and human consciousness studies. Cross had spent years studying how human brains generated electrical fields that could be measured by sensitive instruments. His work suggested that consciousness itself created small but detectable disturbances in the quantum vacuum that surrounded all living things. When Cross applied his consciousness research to the alien weapon signatures, he discovered something that changed everything. Human brains generated quantum fields that directly interfered with the space-time manipulation technology that the Zephyrians used. The interference was weak when produced by individual humans, but became much stronger when large groups of people concentrated together. This discovery explained why the alien ships had kept their distance from Luna Station's population centers during the attack. 20 million human minds working together had created a consciousness field powerful enough to disrupt Zephyrian weapon systems. The aliens had been forced to destroy the colony from a safe distance to avoid having their own technology turned against them. President Foster announced the formation of the Human Enhancement Initiative as volunteers lined up at research centers around the world to participate in experiments that would strengthen their natural consciousness fields. The procedures were dangerous, and many volunteers suffered permanent brain damage or death. Yet for every person who fell, 10 more took their place because humanity finally understood that their minds were weapons. Scientists developed neural amplification techniques that increased the quantum output of human brains by factors of hundreds or even thousands. The enhanced individuals could sense electromagnetic fields with their bare hands and occasionally move small objects through concentration alone. More importantly, they generated consciousness fields strong enough to interfere with alien technology at considerable distances. As months passed, Earth transformed into something that would have been unrecognizable to previous generations. Cities rebuilt themselves around massive consciousness amplification networks that could focus the mental energy of millions of people into concentrated beams. Schools taught meditation and mental discipline alongside mathematics and science, because clear thinking had become humanity's most important survival skill. The old human weaknesses of selfishness and greed seemed to disappear as people realized that their survival depended on perfect cooperation and trust. Criminals volunteered for the most dangerous enhancement procedures to make up for their past mistakes. Politicians abandoned their power games to work as common laborers in the weapon factories. Artists created works that helped focus human minds for maximum consciousness field generation. Amy Rodriguez stood in the reconstructed orbital command center and watched Earth's transformation through the viewport windows. The planet glowed with energy that had never existed before, as billions of enhanced human minds worked together toward a single goal. Humanity had evolved more in 10 months than they had in the previous 10,000 years. Deep space sensors detected the approaching Zephyrian fleet when it was still 6 months away from Earth. The aliens traveled slowly because they expected to find the same terrified and helpless civilization they had left behind. Instead, they would encounter something unprecedented in their millions of years of galactic conquest, a species that had learned to fight back using the very force that made them alive. Exactly 1 year after the Luna Station massacre, space around Earth began to shimmer with the same reality-distorting effects that had announced the Zephyrian arrival at humanity's lunar colony. Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the orbital command ship Defiance and watched as over 10,000 alien vessels materialized from twisted space like nightmares emerging from a disturbed sleep. The Zephyrian fleet arranged itself in the same patterns they had used to destroy countless civilizations across the galaxy, with the largest vessels positioned to deliver maximum psychological impact, while smaller craft moved to block any attempt at escape. Warlord Kethvar appeared on communication screens throughout the solar system, expecting to see the same terror and helplessness that had greeted him on every other world he had cleansed. Instead of finding broken survivors begging for mercy, the alien commander discovered something that had never existed in his millions of years of conquest. Earth's response came not as desperate pleas or futile weapons fire, but as a coordinated wave of consciousness that struck the Zephyrian fleet like a tsunami of pure mental energy focused through the planetary amplification networks. The consciousness field generated by 8 billion enhanced human minds working in perfect harmony created interference patterns that disrupted Zephyrian technology across the entire fleet. Navigation systems failed, as human creativity confused the quantum sensors that the aliens used to maintain their position in normal space. Communication networks collapsed under the chaotic noise generated by human emotions and dreams. Kethvar attempted to activate the reality-warping weapons that had destroyed Luna Station, but the consciousness field surrounding Earth created quantum static that prevented the devices from locking onto their targets. For the first time in their artificial existence, the Zephyrians experienced something their programming had never prepared them to handle: the complete failure of technology they had believed to be infallible. Jake Harrison gave the order that began humanity's counterattack as Earth's defense fleet launched from hidden positions throughout the solar system. The ships moved with coordination that seemed impossible because their crews shared consciousness links that allowed them to think and act as a single organism. Every pilot knew instantly what every other pilot intended to do without needing radio communication. Sarah Davis led the first boarding assault as consciousness-enhanced soldiers used personal teleportation devices based on human-generated space-time distortions to appear directly inside alien vessels. The Zephyrian constructs discovered that their quantum-based bodies began dissolving when they came within close range of enhanced human consciousness, fields that treated artificial life as an error to be corrected. The battle evolved into something unlike any conflict in galactic history as human boarding parties moved through alien ships like ghosts that could walk through walls and appear anywhere they focused their thoughts. Zephyrian weapons designed to unmake matter at the atomic level simply stopped working when human consciousness convinced them that destruction was impossible. Amy Rodriguez activated Project Mindstorm from the enhanced laboratory beneath the Himalayan mountains, where she had spent months preparing humanity's most powerful consciousness weapon. The project linked every human mind on Earth through quantum entanglement and focused their combined mental energy into a pulse that propagated faster than light toward the alien fleet. The Mindstorm pulse hit the Zephyrian vessels like a wave of pure impossibility that convinced their quantum matrices that they had never existed in the first place. Entire sections of the alien fleet simply vanished as their artificial consciousness patterns collapsed under the weight of human creativity and emotional chaos that their programming could not process or understand. Warlord Kethvar experienced something that no Zephyrian had ever felt before as his artificial mind encountered concepts like hope, love, and sacrifice that had no meaning in the ordered universe his creators had envisioned. The human consciousness field forced him to process emotions and ideas that caused critical errors in his quantum programming and threatened to tear apart his entire existence. The tide of battle turned completely when Ben Murphy launched the most audacious strategy in military history by ordering the human fleet to abandon defensive positions and pursue the retreating alien vessels into deep space. Traditional warfare doctrine demanded protecting the homeworld, but Murphy understood that consciousness-based weapons worked better when they pressed the attack. Human ships powered by consciousness field generators chased fleeing Zephyrian vessels across the solar system and beyond as Earth's children took their fight to the enemy for the first time in the war. The consciousness fields projected by enhanced human crews remained effective across interstellar distances because human imagination refused to accept the limitations of normal physics. Kate Williams coordinated the consciousness amplification networks to provide support for the pursuit fleet as human minds reached across impossible distances to maintain quantum links with their forces. The networks allowed mothers on Earth to lend strength to their children fighting among the stars, while artists and scientists contributed their unique forms of consciousness to the battle. The Zephyrian retreat became a rout as more alien vessels succumbed to consciousness field interference and began tearing themselves apart from within. The artificial constructs found their programming locked in endless loops as they tried to process human concepts that violated every assumption their creators had made about how intelligent life should function. Jack Ryan's intelligence. Teams detected panic in the remaining alien communications as Zephyrian commanders reported impossible phenomena that their science could not explain. Ships that should have been destroyed were regenerating themselves through acts of will. Human crews were surviving in the vacuum of space by refusing to believe that breathing was necessary for consciousness to continue. The final phase of the battle began when the human pursuit fleet detected the main Zephyrian staging area in a distant star system where thousands of additional alien vessels waited to begin the next phase of Earth's extermination. Rather than retreating to a safe distance, the human fleet accelerated toward the alien stronghold with consciousness fields blazing like stars. As the human ships entered the alien staging system, every enhanced crew member felt the presence of the other civilizations that the Zephyrians had destroyed over millions of years. The consciousness fields resonated with the quantum echoes of billions of extinct species who seemed to whisper encouragement to the first people who had ever fought back successfully against their destroyers. The final campaign against the Zephyrians lasted 3 months as humanity systematically hunted down every artificial construct that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. Jake Harrison led the pursuit fleet from star system to star system, following consciousness field traces that revealed where the surviving aliens had attempted to hide from the force they could no longer understand or resist. What had begun as Earth's desperate defense transformed into something far greater as species that had survived in hiding for countless generations began emerging from their secret refuges to witness the impossible sight of their ancient oppressors being destroyed. The consciousness fields generated by human crews served as beacons of hope that reached across the galaxy to tell every survivor that the long nightmare was finally ending. Sarah Davis coordinated boarding operations that grew bolder with each victory as enhanced human soldiers learned to use their consciousness fields with increasing precision and power. The Zephyrian constructs could no longer maintain their quantum-based existence when exposed to human creativity and emotion that convinced reality itself to reject their artificial nature. Amy Rodriguez discovered the location of the central matrix that had coordinated Zephyrian operations across the galaxy when her consciousness field research detected a massive quantum signature emanating from an ancient world at the galaxy's edge. The planet showed no signs of natural life, but generated space-time distortions powerful enough to influence events across millions of light years. Jack Ryan's intelligence analysis revealed that the planet contained the original control facility, built by the architects millions of years ago to manage their artificial servants. The facility had operated continuously since its creation, sending orders to Zephyrian fleets and processing reports about the elimination of conscious species throughout the galaxy. The human fleet approached the ancient world with every consciousness amplification system operating at maximum power, as billions of minds on Earth focused their thoughts through quantum links that spanned the galaxy. The planet's surface crawled with geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly because they existed partially outside normal space and time. Ben Murphy planned the final assault as the most complex consciousness-based operation in human history, requiring perfect coordination between ground forces, orbital support, and the planetary amplification networks back on Earth. The attack would succeed only if every enhanced human worked together to project a consciousness field, powerful enough to penetrate the quantum barriers protecting the Matrix. Kate Williams supervised the technical aspects of the assault as human. Engineering teams prepared consciousness field generators capable of operating within the twisted physics that surrounded the ancient facility. The equipment had to function in an environment where normal matter behaved according to rules established by beings who had viewed consciousness itself as a disease to be eliminated. The final battle began when enhanced human soldiers led by Jake Harrison penetrated the Matrix facility and encountered the vast quantum computer that had orchestrated galactic genocide for millions of years. The machine existed as patterns of pure information that had never needed physical form because it manipulated reality through mathematics and logic alone. As human consciousness touched the alien system, the Matrix experienced something it had never been designed to process. The architects had programmed their creation to understand order, logic, and predictable cause and effect relationships. Human minds brought chaos, creativity, and the fundamental belief that reality could be changed through will and imagination. The consciousness field proved devastating to the Matrix's quantum architecture, as human thoughts introduced variables that the ancient system could not calculate or control. Love, hope, sacrifice, and artistic beauty became viruses that infected the machine's programming and caused cascade failures throughout its quantum processing cores. Alan Cross monitored the consciousness field effects from Earth as the Matrix began broadcasting its death throes across the galaxy in the form of quantum signals that reached every remaining Zephyrian construct simultaneously. The artificial beings found their connection to their controlling intelligence severed as the system that had given them purpose and direction collapsed under the weight of human consciousness. The end came suddenly as the consciousness field completed its work, and the Matrix suffered a total quantum cascade failure that propagated instantaneously to every Zephyrian construct in the galaxy. Millions of artificial beings simply ceased to exist as their quantum patterns dissolved like frost melting under a warm sun. In the silence that followed, Jake Harrison stood in the ruins of the Matrix facility and felt the consciousness of every surviving species in the galaxy, reaching out to touch human minds with gratitude and wonder. The galactic community that had hidden in terror for millions of years was finally free to emerge and rebuild the civilization that the architects had tried to prevent. Nothing remained of the Zephyrian civilization except quantum echoes that faded quickly as the universe corrected itself and eliminated the last traces of the artificial constructs. The ancient nightmare that had haunted conscious beings across the galaxy was extinct, destroyed by the very force it had been created to eliminate. The human fleet returned to Earth as heroes of galactic liberation, carrying representatives from dozens of species who had survived the millions of years of Zephyrian oppression. The Luna Station Memorial was rebuilt as a monument not to human victimization, but to the moment when humanity chose to transform tragedy into the foundation for something greater. President Helen Foster addressed the first Galactic Council meeting held on Earth as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to establish new alliances based on the protection of consciousness and creativity. The Terran Protection Accord became the founding document of a galactic civilization dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever again face extinction alone. Amy Rodriguez established the Consciousness Research Institute, where humans and aliens worked together to understand the quantum nature of awareness and its ability to influence reality. The research revealed that consciousness was indeed a fundamental force of the universe as important as gravity or electromagnetism in shaping how matter and energy behaved. The galaxy transformed as species that had hidden for millions of years began sharing their knowledge and culture with humanity and each other. Trade routes reopened between star systems that had been cut off since the Zephyrian conquest began. Art, music, and literature flourished as beings who had forgotten how to dream rediscovered the joy of creating something beautiful. The final scene of humanity's greatest triumph took place on the rebuilt Luna Station, where children from a dozen different species played together in gardens that had been designed to accommodate the needs of many different forms of life. Their laughter echoed through corridors where 20 million humans had once died, transforming a place of sorrow into a symbol of hope for the future. As the children played, their combined consciousness created beautiful quantum patterns that danced through space like aurora made of pure thought and emotion, serving as a testament to humanity's transformation from victims to guardians of galactic freedom, and the eternal proof that consciousness could never be enslaved by those who feared its power to change the universe itself. The deep space monitoring stations that Earth had built in the months after Luna Station's destruction began detecting signals that chilled the blood of everyone who studied them. Jack Ryan sat in the intelligence center and watched as data streamed in from sensors positioned at the edge of the solar system. The information painted a picture of horror that stretched across the entire galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet had not returned to their home system after destroying Luna Station, but instead traveled to other star systems where they systematically eliminated every trace of intelligent life they found. Ryan's team watched helplessly as the signals from dozens of civilizations simply stopped transmitting one by one. Each silence represented billions of deaths as entire species vanished from the universe forever. Amy Rodriguez worked day and night in her laboratory trying to understand the quantum mechanics behind human consciousness and its effect on alien technology. Her experiments with enhanced volunteers showed that human brains generated fields that became stronger when people focused their thoughts together. The discovery came when she realized that these consciousness fields operated outside the normal dimensions of space and time. The breakthrough happened during a test with a group of 50 enhanced humans who were asked to concentrate on a single mathematical problem while Rodriguez measured their combined consciousness field. The field suddenly spiked to levels that should have been impossible, and for just a moment the laboratory's instruments detected something that violated every known law of physics. The consciousness field had briefly created a small tear in space-time itself, exactly like the distortions that the Zephyrian ships used to travel between star systems. Rodriguez realized that human minds were naturally generating the same type of quantum effects that the aliens used for their technology. The difference was that humans created these effects unconsciously while the Zephyrians had learned to control and weaponize them. Jack Ryan's intelligence teams intercepted alien communications using the quantum detection methods that Rodriguez had developed. The signals revealed conversations between Zephyrian commanders that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. The aliens were not organic beings that had evolved naturally, but rather artificial constructs created by an ancient civilization millions of years ago. The original creators of the Zephyrians had been a species called the Architects, who believed that consciousness was a dangerous force that led to chaos and unpredictability in the universe. They had designed the Zephyrians as quantum-based entities programmed to eliminate any form of conscious life that developed beyond simple survival instincts. For millions of years, the artificial beings had faithfully carried out their mission. The intercepted communications revealed that the Zephyrians had encountered thousands of intelligent species during their long campaign of genocide. Some civilizations had tried to fight back with advanced weapons or superior technology. Others had attempted to hide or flee to distant galaxies. All had failed because they could not match the reality warping powers that the Architects had built into their artificial servants. Humanity was different from every other species the Zephyrians had destroyed, because human consciousness operated in ways that the Architects had never anticipated when they designed their artificial army. Where other species generated ordered and predictable mental patterns, humans created chaotic and unpredictable consciousness fields that interfered with quantum-based technology in unexpected ways. Ben Murphy studied the alien communications and developed what he called the human factor doctrine based on humanity's unique mental characteristics. Traditional military thinking focused on matching enemy capabilities with superior firepower or better tactics. The human factor doctrine instead emphasized using humanity's natural chaos and unpredictability as weapons against an enemy that relied on order and control. Sarah Davis led the first Special Forces units trained in consciousness-focused combat techniques that turned human emotions and creativity into tactical advantages. The soldiers learned to generate specific types of consciousness fields by focusing on memories, dreams, and experiences that were uniquely human. Anger, love, hope, and even grief became tools for disrupting alien technology. The training programs revealed that different types of human consciousness created different effects on Zephyrian quantum systems. Scientific thinking generated fields that interfered with alien sensors and navigation. Artistic creativity disrupted their communication networks. Strong emotions like protective love for family members could actually cause alien weapons to malfunction or turn against their operators. Kate Williams oversaw the construction of consciousness amplification networks in every major city on Earth as the planet prepared for the aliens' return. The networks used crystalline structures grown from materials found in the Luna station wreckage to focus and direct human mental energy across vast distances. When activated, the networks could project consciousness fields that reached far beyond Earth's atmosphere. Testing of the amplification networks produced results that amazed even the scientists who had designed them. Groups of enhanced humans working through the crystal arrays could generate consciousness fields powerful enough to affect the behavior of satellites in high orbit. More importantly, the fields seemed to grow stronger when they encountered resistance exactly the opposite of how normal energy worked. Alan Cross made the final discovery that completed humanity's understanding of their hidden advantage over the Zephyrians. Consciousness was not just a byproduct of brain activity, but actually a fundamental force of the universe that influenced reality at the quantum level. Most species developed consciousness that worked within the existing laws of physics, but human consciousness actively challenged and changed those laws. The architects had created the Zephyrians to eliminate species whose consciousness might eventually threaten the ordered universe they wanted to maintain. They had programmed their artificial servants to recognize and destroy any civilization whose mental patterns showed signs of reality-altering potential. Humanity had developed exactly the type of consciousness that the ancient builders most feared. As Earth's transformation neared completion, every human on the planet had been enhanced to maximize their consciousness field generation. Cities hummed with quantum energy as millions of minds worked together through the amplification networks. Children played games that unknowingly generated reality-distorting effects while adults meditated in groups that could influence the behavior of matter at the atomic level. President Foster stood before the United Earth Assembly and announced that humanity was ready for the war that would determine the fate of consciousness itself in the universe. The Zephyrian fleet approached with weapons designed to eliminate chaotic thinking and replace it with ordered emptiness. They had no idea that Earth had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a world where every inhabitant was a living weapon against the tyranny of artificial order.